Morning, Commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the business meeting of Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. Clerk Moss, could you do us the honors, please?
Certainly, Chair Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also acting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is meeting this regular session, December 16th, 2025. Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Fye?
Present.
Vice Chair Treese?
Here.
Chair Harrington?
Here.
And I'll announce Commissioner Snyder is absent from today.
Thank you. Would you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next topic is our first opportunity for public communication. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and share their thoughts with the board on any topic for up to 2 minutes an individual, limited to 10 minutes in total. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
We do, Madam Chair. The first two I had was Jessica Wang and Roger Law. Jessica, are you here? I don't see Jessica in, so after Roger will be Dale Feek.
Go ahead, Mr. Law.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Roger W. Law. I'm a 43-year resident in Washington County. In 2024, data errors were discovered in the Oregon Motor Voter System, OMV, with an admission that non-citizens had been mistakenly registered to vote. In response, in November 2024, Governor Tina Kotek and Secretary of State Tobias Reed initiated a contract with the Baker Tilly Advisory Group, a nationally recognized firm with expertise in government auditing and voter registration systems. Baker Tilly completed their audit and submitted their report on July 1st, 2025. The report showed that despite changes that had been made, 8 areas of risk still remained and around the registration of non-citizens. The Secretary of State then formed the OMV Rules Advisory Committee, RAC, comprised of election experts, DMV staff, county clerks, and immigration specialists to review the system and to recommend changes to the OMV administrative rules. The RAC held 10 public videotaped sessions from September through November 2025, which are posted online on the Secretary of State's website under OMV-RAC. I encourage everyone to watch at least some of these videos to observe the discussions and frustration experienced by RAC members grappling to deal with the citizenship issue. Their proposed draft rules are posted on the Secretary of State website on the Elections Division rulemaking page. The public comment period is currently open. A 30-minute virtual public hearing will be held Tuesday, the 6th of January, 2026 at 11:30 a.m., with meeting details to be posted on the Secretary of State's rulemaking page. Written comments may also be submitted by mail until 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Rules will be finalized January 19th, 2026, so there is time to let your voice be heard. And thank you for listening to the Spirit of Truth speak to me.
Thank you, Mr. Law. Go ahead, Mr. Feek.
Thank you, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. I'm Dale Feek. What's been passed to you, there's part 1, part 2. I already sent you an email. Please follow along as I read or just listen. I prefer you follow along. This is a quote from Heather Cox Richardson. Part of the mission of the United Nations was, quote, to reaffirm faith in the fundamental human rights, in the dignity of worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small. Under President Joe Biden, the White House celebrated Human Rights Day by recommitting to, I quote, Richardson, she quotes, upholding the equal and inalienable rights of all people, end quote. She says, the U.S. government did not recognize Human Rights Day this year. Instead, Umeya Pamu of Reuters reported, administrative officials are threatening to place sanctions on the International Criminal Court to guarantee it will not investigate Trump and his top officials. There's a growing concern, this is a quote, that in 2029, the ICC will turn its attention to the President, to the Vice President, and to the Secretary of War and others. and pursue prosecutions against them, end of quote. A Trump administration official told Pamuk, which is unacceptable. We will not allow it to happen. And I repeat, under President Trump, the U.S. government did not recognize Human Day this year. That's my point number one. Please read in detail all the things I sent you if you want to get more informed. Part two is, and it's on, I don't know if it's an action or it's an informal thing today on an agenda. I support the dissolution of the nonprofit Clean Water Institute created by Clean Water Services and the distribution of Clean Water Institute's funds to other nonprofits.
Thank you, Mr. Feek. So that you know, that topic is on the action.
Yes, with action. Thank you very much.
Clerk Moss, anyone else?
Yes, the next one we have is Mary Manso. Mary?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mary Manso. I'm a longtime CPO volunteer as well as a past Planning Commission. OAO's plans to shift CCI Goal 1 responsibilities to the Planning Commission because this is the way other jurisdictions handle the requirement, is not recognizing the unique differences between Washington County and these other jurisdictions. Washington County has significantly more land and residents living in urban and unincorporated Washington County than other Oregon jurisdictions. Number two, Washington County Planning Commission only deals with long-range planning issues. Current planning issues are made by an independent hearings officer. Washington County CCI leaders look forward to working with you and staff in developing a redesigned CCI that meets Goal 1 requirements for a community engagement program that ensures the opportunity for the community to be involved in all phases of the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manso.
All right, that concludes testimony in the room. Is there any member online via Zoom who should provide public comment for up to 2 minutes on any county-related topic? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And before we move on to today's consent agenda, we are taking item 17 off of the consent agenda and moving it to item 7 on the action agenda. So that leaves us with 17 items on today's consent agenda. 1 set of minutes, 5 items from Clean Water Services, 2 items from the District Attorney's Office, 2 items from IT, 2 items from Land Use and Transportation, 1 item from the Cooperative Library Service, 1 from Health and Human Services, 1 from County Council, 1 from the Board of Commissioners, and 1 from Facilities, Fleet, and Parks. What are the wishes of the Commission regarding today's consent agenda?
Move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to boards and commissions. We have 2 opportunities here. The first one is to appoint members to the Mountain Creek Road Maintenance Improvement District Citizen Advisory Board. The appointment opportunities and applications came to us previously in a work session, so today we have the opportunity to appoint 3 new members to this Mountain Creek Road Maintenance Local Improvement District Citizen Advisory Board in the form of volunteers Dave Sanders, Kendall Von Hare, and David Smith. What are the wishes of the Commission?
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? That appointment passes unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to the Public Safety Coordinating Council, also known as PSCC. We have the opportunity to reappoint Jenny Gilmore Robinson to the statutorily mandated position of representative from a victim service agency, and additionally to reappoint Melissa Laird and Deanna Palm, community volunteer at-large positions for another term, as well as to appoint Yvette Zalvala to her first term as a community member volunteer on PSCC. And that term on the others will become effective January 1 of our new year 2026 through December 31, 2027, so 2 years. What are the wishes of the commission?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. That's it for boards and commissions. Thank you to each of the applicants as well as to those community volunteers for your upcoming service. Next, we're going to move to public hearings. And today we have 5 different public hearings, all of which relate to our budget, our supplemental budget in one way or another. So first, we have the big kahuna, the main Washington County budget, and need to conduct a public hearing with regard to a subsequent action to approve the resolution in order to adopt this supplemental for fiscal year 25-26. Do we have any staff presentation by any chance on any of these?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm John Steyer, the Chief Financial Officer for the county. And just as a way of introduction to the public hearings, Oregon budget law allows us to modify the adopted budget through the supplemental process. The supplemental budgets are used to appropriate additional funding, transfer resources and appropriations between funds, establish new funds, and create new appropriations categories within a fund. The supplementals we have today, we're presenting them to represent the formal transition of the new chart of accounts as a result of our Enterprise Resource Planning System, or ERP, transition from an Oracle-based system to Workday. In this transition to Workday, we have reorganized county funds and organizational units to better align with Government Finance Officers Association practices, best practices. The changes in the reorganization and fund numbering results in the requirement to readopt the budget in the supplemental process. There are no new changes to expenditures in these supplemental budgets. The supplemental budget reflects fiscal year 25-26 adopted budget and supplemental changes approved on 4 November of this year. The new chart of accounts will be effective 1 January as we go live 20 December in Workday this year. Very excited about that. And so the results of the changes in the chart of accounts, we are seeking to formally adopt the county's budget and service districts' budgets to reflect the updated chart of accounts.
Thank you, Mr. Steyer. Commissioners, do you have any questions? We will need to have 5 different public hearings and 5 different motions, but the purpose remains the same,
yes,
as he's mentioned. Okay.
Chair, if I just may, I just want to add a little excitement to this, and I appreciate that John is always cool, calm, and collected, as we want every CFO to be, but this is a monumental time. The county's transition from Oracle to Workday is the first time in 24 years to change our operating system. I want to underscore this does not change the revenues and expenditures. It's really a formatting change, and just appreciate the tireless hours of staff work so that we can, with the new system, align with best practice. So I just want to elevate just this. This is actually really exciting, and there is, once again, no change in the revenues or expenditures based on your policy decision of your adopted fiscal year budget.
And to put a finer point on it, I am really pleased that the process of managing the county's finances, as well as other work with the new, under the new Enterprise Resource Planning, or ERP system, will be a whole lot less arduous and potentially error-prone due to humans having to transfer data from one system to another and deal with outdated software. So thank you to all of our employees, not only for your patience in that regard, but also the excellent work that's gone into this huge lift and transition. So without further ado, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss.
I did not see anyone sign up in advance. Is there any member? Mr. Feek?
Chair Harrington and Commissioners, Dale Feek, resident of Forest Grove since 1966. Started as a fifth grade teacher at Joseph Gale Elementary School. Budgets are usually considered a statement of values, that being a family budget, a city budget, a county budget, state budget, or a federal budget. So values hopefully drive this spending of money. I'm not sure if Oracle is part of the big picture of the federal stuff at Oracle. If it is, I'm really in favor of switching from Oracle to Workday, and that's for a political reason, and because Oracle's a huge funder of President Trump and his regime. But my point is, I'm in support of this presentation. Done.
Right. Is there any other member in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard from staff, not seeing anyone raise their hands or coming forward. Is there any member online that wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? Give you a chance to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I'll close today's public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution in order to adopt the supplemental budget for Washington County for fiscal year 25-26.
So move.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to the Service District for Lighting Number 1 supplemental budget. The same needs apply. Are there any Commissioner questions or comments before we start? Okay, and with that, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
I did not see any member of the auditorium sign up in advance of the meeting. Would any member of the auditorium wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you heard the staff report, give them stand up, raise your hand, come forward, and not seeing it in the room. Is there any member online that would provide comment on this public hearing? Just give you a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you. And with that, I'll close today's public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution in order to adopt the supplemental budget for the Service District for Lighting Number 1 for fiscal year 25-26.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second has been made. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to another one of the service districts, the Urban Road Maintenance District, and the need for a supplemental budget here. The same needs apply. Are there any board questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to testify on the FY26 Urban Road Maintenance District supplemental budget?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in advance of the meeting. Was there anyone in the auditorium wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard from staff, raise your hand or start coming forward. Not seeing it in the room. Is there any member online via Zoom that will provide public comment on this public hearing? I'll give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt the resolution in order to adopt the fiscal year 25-26 Urban Road Maintenance District supplemental budget.
So moved. Second.
All those, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to the fourth one, and this is for the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, and similar need for adopting this supplemental budget for fiscal year 25-26. Commissioners, have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to testify?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. Mr. Feek?
Chair Harrington and Commissioners, Dale Feek. I had the opportunity to listen to the sheriff talk about the enhanced sheriff patrol, I think, in one of your work sessions. Anyway, I've listened to presentations about that. And the importance of having police, sheriff within communities that aren't in cities. And so my understanding of the enhanced sheriff patrol is to provide safety for the people that don't have, I'm just repeating myself, don't have police help. I got involved with somebody that was involved. Well, I learned about somebody that really wanted a problem solved with noise, and they were in an unincorporated area. And they really had a hard time because the neighbors were causing all kinds of trouble, and here the county couldn't do anything, the city of Beaverton couldn't do anything, all that kind of stuff. And so it's really important to have an agency that's enhanced. They get extra money, so they provide services to these unincorporated areas. Being in Forest Grove, I really appreciate our police chief, and that's Henry Ryman. I'm getting to know him fairly well. And it's important to coordinate with the county, with the enhanced, and with the sheriff people. So I'm in support of the enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District supplemental budget.
Thank you, Mr. Feek. Anyone else, Clerk Moss?
Not seeing anyone else coming forward or raising their hand in the auditorium. Is there any member by Zoom that wish to provide public comment? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I would like to close the public hearing and ask for a motion to adopt the resolution in order to adopt the fiscal year 25-26 Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District supplemental budget.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. And now for our fifth and final one, related to the supplemental budget and the needs to adopt the new chart of accounts, we have the very small but specific North Bethany County Service District for roads. Do we have any board questions or comments on this?
Chair Harrington, I don't have any question, but I do need to step aside and come back as planned.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that leaves the three of us. At this juncture, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, does anyone wish to testify with regard to the North Bethany County Service District for Roads supplemental budget?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in the auditorium beforehand. Is there any member in the auditorium that wishes to at this time? Not seeing anyone raising their hand or coming forward. Is there any member on Zoom that wishes to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard from staff, I'll give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And seeing none, I would like to close this public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution in order to adopt the fiscal year 25-26 North Bethany County Service District for Road supplemental budget.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. Clerk Moss, do you know if I appropriately closed that public hearing?
I believe you did.
I did? Okay. I'd just like to make sure I get the procedures right so we don't have to come back and do it again. So thank you, everyone, for your patience. Now we're moving on to the action section of our agenda, and here we have 7 different items. The first 4 are related to clean water services. The first being to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Forest Grove for the final design and construction for the Forest Grove Rehabilitation Phase 3 Pacific Avenue to E Street Project number 7153. Interim CEO General Manager Rick Shanley, would you like to give us an overview before turning it over to a staff presentation?
Sure. We're really pleased to be here this morning to present this project. We've talked quite a bit about inflow and infiltration and the very big impacts it has on our treatment and collection system. So this is an opportunity to make a move in a positive direction on that, as well as highlight some federal funding that we gained along the way. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris Faulkner. He's going to lead the presentation, and Joe will be here to assist.
Good morning, everybody. So let's get a little background if we, well, there it is. Well, there we go. I'm not going to move. There we go. A little bit of background on the project. So inflow infiltration, I&I, as some folks may know, is what happens when water that's not supposed to be in a sanitary sewer pipe gets into that sewer pipe through usually stormwater, groundwater, that sort of thing. Typically caused by pipes that have cracks, failures, aging pipes, that sort of thing. So back in March 2017, Clean Water Services actually did a study in the Forest Grove Water Resource Recovery Facility basin to look at potential issues with I&I. Recommended a series of projects, and so up to this point, we've completed about 2 of those, one in 2020 and one in 2023. In about 2023 as well, we actually started pursuing a unique opportunity to get some federal dollars to help out. Our government relations folks were able to work with Congresswoman Bonamici's office to support or to secure a federal grant, basically. And so Washington County Board of Commissioners was also there, signed on to that. And so we received notice of the award this past summer. So now we're coming to you with the IGA. Just so everybody has sort of a frame of reference, this is the area that we're talking about in Forest Grove. You'll see Pacific University to kind of the eastern boundary. Tom McCall Upper Elementary School, see Pacific Avenue there in the middle. The red lines, those indicate those pipes that are in desperate need of rehabilitation and replacement. So just kind of scope of the project. CWS staff will be working with City of Forest Grove staff to carry out this project. At some point, we will bring on an actual contractor to actually do the work. But we're going to complete final design. We'll be securing permits of entry to allow us to go on to property. We'll be doing this project using pipe bursting techniques, which should limit the amount of disruption to the community. We don't have to dig trenches, that sort of thing. We'll be providing regular updates to the public just so they know what's happening. So, and we'll do our normal complete the project closeout and do long-term monitoring to make sure we're actually getting those reductions in I&I. And so overall goals, again, we want to get reductions in I&I that'll decrease those peak flows to the Forest Grove facility. That'll help us lower potential risk for sanitary sewer overflows, something none of us want. It'll also help increase just overall treatment efficiency. It'll lower costs. We don't want to treat water that we don't have to treat, right? Also will extend the lifespan of our system. Some of these pipes are nearing 90 years old, so they've done a really good job, but it's time to move on from them. And also just, enhance protection of water bodies and public health, and then just generally making sure that we are maintaining that high level of service that our various customers and constituents have come to expect from Clean Water Services. And so the project funding, the way we fund these kinds of projects is a 50-50 split. 50% comes from Clean Water Services, 50% from the local jurisdiction. So got about $50,000 set aside for each entity for final design, a little over $950,000 for overall construction. The grant will cover Forest Grove's portion. So for a project, total cost a little over about $2 million. And so we are requesting board action to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Forest Grove to carry out the final design and construction for the Forest Grove Rehabilitation Phase 3, Pacific Avenue to E Street, CWS Project 7153.
Thank you. Are there any board questions or comments? I would just like to highlight that the note that most of the pipeline infrastructure in the project area is concrete or clay, which you talked about, with an average age of nearly 90 years. Holy smokes, that's a long time.
It hung in there. It did.
Yes, indeed. And I'm a big fan of the trenchless pipe bursting. But I really want to compliment you, and I have a question related to this, that this Capital Improvement Program Participation CIPP Committee, which includes representatives from the district and the 7 cities in the district service area that receive regional-only services. This is the first time I've really understood that is part of the process with our jurisdictional partners. Sorry, I have not recognized that previously. Who does that committee advise or report to?
So that committee, it's, as you pointed out, representatives from some of our larger cities.
Yeah.
CWS also participates. And what we do is we meet monthly, and anytime there's a potential capital project, it's really how the cities help us implement our master plans.
Yeah.
And so they will make recommendations. We do prioritization, just to making sure that everybody's making all the right choices. Everybody's supporting. So it's a really good function.
It's great collaboration, great
Absolutely.
partnership, but it's also, correct me if I'm wrong, it's also part of the follow through from at a high level the basin plans that inform the capital improvement plans, which we see those 5-year plans through our annual budget process and making all of that come to life.
That's exactly right.
So good job, good job. I just hadn't really internalized it before, so thank you. Okay, so with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve this intergovernmental agreement with the City of Forest Grove for the final design and construction for this Forest Grove Rehabilitation Phase 3 project, Pacific Avenue to East Street, project number 7153. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you. Directors, any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. And next, we'll move on to another CWS topic, but a slightly different flavor. And this is with regard to the 2026 federal legislative agenda and the state legislative agenda. So welcome to Tracy Rainey, our Government Relations Manager, and Elizabeth Edwards, Chief of Staff. Mr. Shanley, all thumbs up. Take it away.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harrington and members of the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services. Again, for the record, my name is Tracy Rainey, Government Relations Manager for Clean Water Services.
Elizabeth Edwards, Chief of Staff with Clean Water Services.
And same thing, there we go. We appreciate the opportunity today to present the final proposed state and federal legislative agendas for 2026. We will very briefly talk about the upcoming 2026 year ahead, both in terms of federal at the congressional level and the state legislative session. We will talk through and remind you of our legislative agenda development process and the past conversations that we've had with you all in previous work sessions. We'll very briefly outline our final proposed legislative agendas and our priorities and principles for the federal and state level. And then we will open it up for questions and discussion and turning it over to you, Chair. Okay, there we go. So as you know, we are entering the 119th Congress. We are actually midway through in our second session. And we are also very quickly approaching the 2026 state legislative session, which will be a short legislative session not to exceed 35 calendar days. The state legislative session will begin on February 2nd and will adjourn no later than March 9th. We anticipate that this is going to be a challenging session in terms of the state budget, where we'll be navigating a lot of proposed cuts, including to programs that we are very much invested in as a utility. Apologies as we are trying to navigate the clicker. As you'll recall, in our legislative agenda development process, we begin that in the summer each year, talking with our internal staff at Clean Water Services and checking in on our prior year, I guess I could say the current year legislative agenda for both the state and federal level. We also work with our federal contract lobbyist, P. Evich at Vanscoic Associates, to check in with him as well on any items that have changed and need to be reframed or modified going into the coming year. As you'll remember, we did check in with you all through 2 work sessions in November and then again in early December. Again, just talking through and receiving any input you had on our proposed priorities and principles. Okay, so we will very, very briefly outline our proposed federal guiding principles. Just as a reminder, in terms of our principles, they are broader for both the state and federal agenda, and they're intended to help us navigate items that we may encounter, but again, giving us a little bit more of a broad framework to work from to help guide us as we engage in legislative conversations. So the ones that you'll see there on the screen, there are 4 of them. One is around water infrastructure investment. This is ongoing for us, and we continue to advocate for increased investment there. The second one on that list is supporting initiatives really to promote the long-term resilience, efficiency, and effectiveness, as well as safety of water utilities and infrastructure. We continue to engage in conversations to promote conservation, technical assistance and incentives, and then strategies that help us better understand and respond to rising challenges, including emerging contaminants and climate-related events as well. Moving into those more specific federal legislative priorities for 2026, Scoggins Dam continues to be one of our top priorities, so we'll be working to advance structural modifications to address the seismic challenges of that facility and opposing any reductions in stored water capacity that we rely upon for water quality. Advancing water reuse opportunities, advocating for investment in low-income water ratepayer assistance, ensuring effective management, so funding for the operations and maintenance of Wapato Lake National Wildlife Refuge, supporting funding for agricultural conservation incentives and programs, really around the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. And then finally, advocating for policies that are protective of the environment and human health from exposure to emerging contaminants while making sure that we are protecting utility ratepayers at the same time. Anything that you have to add, Elizabeth?
No, I think that encapsulates a broad spectrum of work with the federal government, and it's been an interesting first half of the 119th Congress, and we look forward to hopefully a little bit more productive second half.
Okay, with that, I will move into our state guiding principle. Again, this one is a very broad, high level, just to provide us that guidance of how we will navigate, especially legislation that we may not anticipate for the coming session. So I will not read that out loud. We've talked about it many times. I will move into our state legislative priorities. So the first one is, again, around water infrastructure and really working to support increased investment or protect the investments that we have really with the budget session that we know that we're going to have, including we will be focused on addressing the lack of funding for the septic loan program that provides funding loans for low-income individuals to repair or replace their septic systems or connect to the public sewer. Second one on that list is around DEQ's budget for the Water Quality Division, making sure that we are protecting the resources that we rely upon for effective permits. Continuing to work with DEQ on water reuse and updating the policies of the state that we rely upon for implementing water reuse projects. And then preserving local infrastructure financing tools for the infrastructure, including system development charges. And we've got just one more slide of those priorities that I will get into. Okay, so the final 4, supporting policies and investments around resource recovery, including renewable energy, nutrient recovery, and water reuse. advocating for policies and regulations, again, related to emerging contaminants. And we're seeing a lot of those conversations that are happening at the state level. So making sure that we've got good, sound data and science that is informing those policies. Supporting efforts to maintain and further promote water utility responsiveness, efficiency, resiliency, including elevating our water workforce needs. And we do anticipate legislation that will look to recognize Oregon's water workforce. And then finally, supporting funding and efficiencies and policies to promote housing production. It's a big conversation in the state, but also at the same time ensuring that we are protecting water quality and public health. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Chair, for any questions, discussion, and adoption.
Thank you. We've had multiple work sessions on this previously, and we've now just had an additional overview today. Board members, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to make? Seeing none, I would like to ask for a motion to adopt the 2026 federal and the state legislative agendas for clean water services.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The agendas pass unanimously 3-0, as we are the Clean Water Services Board of Directors. Now we'll move on to the next action item for CWS. This one involves dissolving the Clean Water Institute? No, regarding clean water. Oh, authorizing Clean Water Ripple and the I had it right the first time, the dissolution of Clean Water Ripple. Take it away, Mr. Shanley and staff.
I can take this one.
Yeah, I would just start by saying this is one of the fundamental tenets of our Back to Basics initiative that we're undertaking to really focus ourselves on our core mission. We think we can continue to be very innovative with the space that's provided within the district. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Lobdell and Brad. Thank you.
Can I just say the Ripple name versus CWI threw me for a loop, so if in your overview you could address that, I might have forgotten all the renaming recently, but that's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Clean Water Services Board of Directors. For purposes of the record, Caroline Lobdell, General Counsel, Chief Compliance Officer, joined with Mr. Anderson, who was acting General Counsel for me and worked on this particular issue. Chair Harrington, I understand the confusion as I'm here today to present both on Clean Water Institute after we address the Ripple. So the first order of business is to ask what am I missing here?
No, I'm finally connecting the dots. It's the next action item.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. So I understood how you got there. You got there organically. Let's address Ripple first, which is the Research Innovation Partnership Lab. I'm asking for board approval to appoint Rick Shanley as the interim CEO/general manager. To serve as the director and authorized representative of Clean Water Ripple, even though we are dissolving it pursuant to the board's direction for a more back to basics approach. We need to put someone in place in order to effectuate the dissolution. And secondly, we'd be then dissolve Ripple, which includes basically approving the articles of dissolution and the plan of dissolution, which are both attached herein. I really just stand. I think we've had a lot of conversations about this along the way, so I don't need to talk unless there are questions. I stand ready to answer those.
Board member, we don't have any further questions and comments beyond the excellent work that's happened to date. So, seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt the resolution and order authorizing actions regarding Clean Water Ripple and the dissolution of Clean Water Ripple?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. And next, we'll move on. Do you have a separate presentation on this or things you want to say? It's okay to
Yes,
say yes.
I do, because it's
Perfect.
a little more complicated.
Okay, then we're going to move on to similar action, but regarding the Clean Water Institute. So please take it away.
Yes, and this is further in direction to the board's back to basic approach, and that is also to dissolve the Clean Water Institute. It's complicated because, as I mentioned the last time I was before you, some of the originating documents conflate the board of directors with the board of commissioners. So I'm here today to ask you in both capacities to approve and adopt the resolution and order adopting corporate actions for Clean Water Institute and the subsequent dissolution of Clean Water Institute. Specifically, to dissolve Clean Water Institute, those actions include approving the articles of dissolution and to approve the plan of dissolution, both of them attached in my materials, and then to enact or to empower Rick Shanley as the interim CEO and general manager to act on behalf of Clean Water Services and to empower Jay Waldron, who is the president of Clean Water Institute, to act on behalf of Clean Water Institute. So there's a lot of CWs there. Rick Shanley needs to act in capacity of Clean Water Services, but then we've got to have someone within the Clean Water Institute to effectuate the dissolution. So I'm looking for 2 votes here, one as the board of directors for Clean Water Services and one in your capacity as the board of commissioners.
And we should make those and vote on them in a serial fashion.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So first, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt the resolution and order authorizing corporate actions regarding Clean Water Institute and the dissolution of Clean Water Institute in our form as the Washington County Board of Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. Now, similar motion and a second to adopt the resolution and order authorizing the corporate actions regarding Clean Water Institute and the dissolution of Clean Water Institute in our role as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you. Directors, any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. We did the actions as well in that motion. So I took care of everything properly.
Took it all, yes.
Correctly?
I can.
Great.
Thank
Just
you.
wanted to make sure. Okay, next we're going to move on to something related to our role as the Washington County Board of Commissioners and housing. So, boy, we're walking the whole spectrum today. First, I need to ask for a motion to read proposed ordinance number 913 by title only.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. Over to you, Mr. Barnett.
Certainly, Chair. Ordinance number 913, an ordinance amending Washington County Code Section 3.48.020C to conform the nonprofit corporation low-income housing tax exemption to ORS 307.541.
Thank you. So we have this ordinance. What I can't tell you in this moment, I think it doesn't tell me if we're doing a time certain day for action or doing the action today. Can you help me with that, Clerk Moss?
I certainly can, Chair Harrington. What staff is requesting is you continue for this ordinance for a second reading and public hearing on January 6th.
Okay, thank you. So at this juncture, I would like to ask for a motion to continue ordinance 913 to January 6, 2026 for the second reading and public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. Next, we're going to move to item number 6 of 7. And this is for Washington County as an agency to consider adopting the 2026 state agenda and the 2026 federal legislative agenda. Ms. Angie, right over to staff experts.
Please, they are the experts.
Okay, Ms. Erin Doyle, as well as Zakir Khan, two members of our government relations team, please take it away.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Harrington. For your record, Erin Doyle, Senior Government Relations Manager.
Zakir Khan, Government Relations Manager here at Washington County.
The rest of the team would have been here, but due to family emergencies are not able to join us, so we will do our best to carry their information forward. As you stated, we are seeking adoption of both the federal and state legislative agendas for 2026 for Washington County. The complete documents as drafted are included in the packet for further review of anyone who is very interested. We have had this discussion with your board and work session in November and December, much like Clean Water Services. We're just going to say a lot of ditto to what they have presented today. We are focusing in on the priorities instead of the entire contents of the document. With that, I'm going to see if I have better luck with the clicker. As your board is aware, but for the public's information, we do annual updates to the federal legislative agenda, which are focused on principles, because it is very hard to set priorities when the federal government works in the way that it does. These principles allow for flexibility for our team, which includes our federal lobby team at Van Scoik Associates, to maneuver and represent the county's interests and goals. So this year, we are making some minor reform to the language and the principles to reflect the directions that you've provided across multiple places. In addition to that, we are recommending the addition of a new principle focused on CDBG, or the Community Development Block Grant, and home programs, really focusing on that need for flexibility, because we are the experts on how to spend that money and we do it really well, but we would really like it to be stable and enhanced. So those are the recommended changes to the federal agenda. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague.
Commissioners, I'll be discussing the proposed state legislative agenda. As the board will recall, principles are the foundational approaches to policy conversations. They are evergreen and they are robust. They don't often change from year to year. Priorities focus on specific policy and budget goals, and they depend upon what the county is viewing as in terms of a major priority for that year on a year-to-year basis. With regards to the proposed county legislative priorities reflect the needs and goals of the board for the year's legislative session. On your screen, you'll see 3 items that are being carried forward from 2025, which relate to funding, workforce, and revenue. With regards to the 3rd item that you see on your screen, I'll turn it back over to my colleague, Erin Doyle.
And I will do my best to stand in for Carly. Per the board's direction during our work sessions, we have, and a recognition that in the short session, a number of legislators and the governor are looking to enhance and strengthen the economic development work that is done at the state level. We created this recommended priority for your board's consideration, as well as the sub-bullet points to support exactly what it is that we intend. I won't read it out to you, but the real focus from your board's conversation is that Washington County needs to continue to be strong advocates in this space, looking at workforce as a part of the work that we do, but also making sure that it's state-led and state-financed strategies, as opposed to asking us to do more and cost more for our work. So that is how we have drafted these priorities for your consideration today. And then finally, one more preservation work.
Yeah, so this is just to preserve the funding that we got for the courthouse replacement project and to protect that asset.
As was noted by the Clean Water Services presentation, we know that there are suggestions for how to cut fundings. OJD did suggest cutting these matching funds in this next budget as they reassess overall, and therefore we will be strongly encouraging the legislature not to leave our courthouse behind.
And then I have gratitude for the previous presenters who went over this slide here, but I'll just say that a lot of the session really depends upon the revenue forecast on February 4th, and so we'll be tracking that and updating the board when that information comes in. And with that, once this thing catches up, with that, I'll turn it back to the chair, for any questions on the adoption of our legislative agenda.
Good work, succinct overview, and all the materials are publicly available in our packet. Any other board additional questions or comments?
I would just like to thank you for your work and thank you for working with all of the commissioners individually regarding issues and the fact that as a group we agreed on these principles and priorities. So I really appreciate your leadership here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have a motion and a second to adopt the Washington County 2026 state and federal legislative agendas?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. Thank you for being here today with us. All right, next we're going to move to item 7, which is the previously moved item from the consent agenda. Item D17 has now become item G7. And this is related to the topic of adopting the Commissioner's Guiding Budget Principles and Priorities for 2026. We discussed this in our work session before the meeting, so we will first make a motion to adopt the Guiding Budget Principles and Priorities, and then we have an amendment. So, do we have a motion and a second to adopt the Guiding Budget Principles and Priorities for the development of FY 2026-27?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. We have an amendment that was discussed in our work session that regards our budget principles. In similar fashion to what you heard in previous items with regard to principles, we have a new principle that we would like to include and position between the 6th and 7th bullets, and it would read, develop a proposed budget that outlines service changes and impacts to the community. So that's the idea, but now that we have the whole thing on the table, we need an amendment.
So move to accept the amendment.
Second.
All those in favor of accepting this amendment, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. The motion on the table to adopt the guiding principles and priorities is now amended. So I'd like to open the floor for any commissioner comments or questions.
I don't have any comments. We discussed this in work session. We're good.
Yep. So I just have one comment. These budget guiding principles and priorities don't hurt at all. I just wished that we had provided more direction for solving the budget gap. Per our forecast, we have a expected gap of $5 million in the development of proposed fiscal year 27. I wish we had exercised more leadership in problem solving through our guiding principles and priorities. To put it more succinctly, I don't think we went far enough. So we've left quite a challenge to our county administrative officer, who is also our budget officer, and her staff across the whole agency to bring us that balanced proposed budget. And you can see the updated forecast through our roundtable presentation and notes from December 4th. All that said, well, like I said, these don't hurt. So I will be approving these guiding principles and priorities. So let there be no question. Go ahead, Ms. Angie.
Yeah, Chair, as just a matter of the record within this item in your packet, it does include the 5-year general fund forecast update, which demonstrates the gap this year and also the reality of the structural imbalance we have out in future years.
Yeah. Thank you for that highlight. Okay, seeing no further board question and comments, we have a motion on the table, so all those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 3-0. I'm just sorry that we only have 3 of us here in attendance today. Commissioner Fye is off with some other extracurriculars. So at this juncture, we'd like to move to our second public comment period for today. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and share their thoughts with us for up to 5 minutes an individual, 30 minutes maximum. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
We do, Madam Chair. We have Jill Latreille and Mary Colocopoulos.
Colocopoulos, how's that? How am I doing, Mary? Am I getting better? Thumbs up.
Mary C.
Okay, so Ms. Latreille, please start us off.
Good morning and Merry Christmas, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Jill Latreille, and I've been a resident of Washington County for over 30 years. I will continue to share more of my observation of the November 4th, 2025 election at the Washington County Election Office. I observed adjudication, the process of a 2-person team manually entering the votes made on ballots not readable by the tabulation system. Adjudication can be viewed on monitors in the observation room. Some ballots required adjudication due to a printing error. The clear ballot error message read, wrong number of right timing marks. The timing marks are along the edges of a ballot. The tabulation system uses the timing marks to determine where the vote should be, the individual ovals on the ballot, and scans these zones for voter markings. These defective ballots showed up on the observation monitors covered by ballot analog sheets, like this. The cover sheets made it impossible to see the voters' original selections as the team entered the votes into the tabulation system. Only the cover sheet and the edges of each ballot were visible. There is no transparency during this type of adjudication, where the observers cannot see the original ballot to verify the voter's intent. Back in November 2024 election, observers witnessed the same printing error, the wrong number of timing marks. In that election, the adjudication of those 3 batches of defective ballots took many hours over a period of 2 days. After the first hour or so, observers asked if someone could sit near the adjudication team to view the original ballots and the selections recorded. That request was denied. Election manager Dan Forrester did offer observers a chance to view the 3 batches of ballots for a brief period once the team finished. However, that offer was later revoked. Mr. Forrester said once the election was certified, a public records request could be submitted to view those batches. Please note that all public records requests incur a fee. Observers should be allowed to watch all ballots being adjudicated, including the unreadable ballots, defective ballots, and ballots that need to be duplicated. Many of these processes take place without any observer's oversight. I will repeat from a previous testimony. Citizens have been requesting for 4 years to observe the election process in person in each area that ballots are being processed. ORS 254.482 states, the county clerk, if requested, shall permit authorized persons to be at the office of the county clerk to watch the receiving and counting of votes. The vote by mail procedure manual states, members of the public may observe all ballot processes, except the confidential election processes, such as challenge ballot processes. As I stated earlier, this is the second election I have seen this printing error on the ballots in Washington County. It's possible other printing errors have occurred, but were unseen. Perhaps when the observers weren't present, when observation monitors weren't operational, or when the computer stations being utilized weren't being displayed in the observation room. This printing error was visibly obvious on the ballots. Many of these timing marks on this side were missing. It seems to me that the Quality Control Department of the county's ballot printer, Ryder Election Services in Bend, should catch this type of printing error before sending out defective ballots to voters. I want to point out that if these ballots were hand counted, the voter's intent would not require a machine using software that relies on timing marks to detect where the ovals are located on a ballot to determine a vote selection. I have seen all types of marks on ballots require adjudication, but instead, during hand counting, 2 people using human eyes to view a paper ballot to discern a voter's choice, whether that vote is indicated by a check mark, an X, or a partially filled out oval. We ask again, observers be allowed to view all ballot processes in person. We ask that Washington County utilize our home rule authority and take local control of our elections. Allow limited absentee voting, voting in person, in the precincts on election day, require voter ID, proof of citizenship and residency, use paper ballots, and hand count the votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Latre. And over to you now, Ms. Hokiopoulos.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. I'm Mary Halkiopoulos, a resident of Washington County. Excuse me. Last year's discovery and admission that the DMV had registered non-citizens to vote resulted in a flurry of activity, a temporary shutdown of the system, some initial changes and reopening of the system, an independent audit, and the creation of a Rules Advisory Committee, or RAC, to develop process changes to be codified in the Oregon Motor Voter Manual. On the surface, it sounds like all the problems are being addressed and the issues fixed. Nothing can be further from the truth. The rules and policies outlined in the existing Oregon Motor Voter OMV manual have been in place since July 2023. On page 4 of the manual, under voter qualifications, it clearly states, quote, individuals who meet the following criteria are qualified for registration through the OMV process: United States citizen, at least 16 years old, and an Oregon resident. Only an individual with a record of providing documentation to DMV establishing that the individual is a U.S. citizen will be registered through the OMV process, end quote. Despite the criteria spelled out in the manual, non-citizens were still registered. Why? Well, one thing that came up during the recent advisory committee sessions is that DMV employees may feel uncomfortable asking people if they're citizens. That's a private matter and shouldn't be discussed at the counter. Also, there may be concern that asking someone for their citizenship status might be a violation of sanctuary state laws. However, ORS 180.803, Section 3 states, quote, except as required by state or federal law or as necessary to determine eligibility for a benefit a person is seeking, a public body may not inquire or request information concerning a person's citizenship or immigration status, end quote. Since voting is definitely a benefit which requires proof of citizenship by both state and federal law, if a person wants to register, it's the duty of the DMV employee to confirm citizenship status. Note the term, quote, if a person wants to register, end quote. Under the 2023 OMV manual, a person is asked at the counter if they want to register to vote. If they do, they select a party and become registered. If they decline, they aren't registered. If they provide no response, they are registered as a non-affiliated voter. Under the proposed new system, quote, during the covered transaction, DMV technicians shall provide verbal or written notice to all apparently qualified individuals that their information will be used to register them to vote, and that at the conclusion of the transaction, they will receive important information, including eligibility requirements, the consequences of registering when not qualified, and instructions on how to opt out through their county elections office, end quote. At the end of the transaction, they will receive an OMV explainer document with this information. So instead of asking people if they want to register to vote, they are now telling them their information will be used to register them to vote. This policy forces citizens to register to vote against their will and potentially registers non-citizens. By the time they opt out, their information and electronic signatures will have been shared with several agencies, public and private. This policy is already being implemented and people are angry. Some even claim they aren't qualified to vote, even though they are, just to stop the registration process. While the new procedures may help to identify citizenship status based on documentation or attestation, from this point forward, they have no effect on non-citizens already on the rolls, as for standard license renewals, no documentation is required. The issue of existing non-citizens was the highest risk category uncovered by the audit and the whole reason for creating the committee. It's important to note these procedures only apply to DMV registrations. People will still be able to register directly online with only self-attestation, and individuals may be registered to vote through non-governmental organizations which do not require documentation of citizenship. These issues, along with the mandated voter registration, will likely increase rather than decrease the number of ineligible and illegal voters on our rolls. Washington County needs to be in control of its own voter rolls. Thank you. And Merry Christmas.
And I just want to encourage you to submit your comments through the state process that Mr. Law highlighted earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who do we have next, Clerk Moss?
That concludes everyone in the auditorium. So we have one hand on Zoom, Mr. Jim Long. Mr. Long, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, please go ahead for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Happy holidays, commissioners. I have 3 comments. First of all, saying that my father had, no one of us is as smart as all of us. First of all, I agree with Mary Manso's suggestions and comments related to the modernization of the CPO program. She's commented at the beginning of this meeting. 2, part of the role of the CCI and the county is to evaluate the CPO program. This has not happened in the past. The Land Use S&R Committee has undertaken to complete an evaluation. The committee has developed questionnaires to collect data to evaluate the CPO program. Our hope is to compile the data and present a report to the board maybe by the end of June. The separate questionnaires are directed to active CPOs, the Department of Land Use and Transportation, the Committee for Citizen Involvement, and the County Planning Commission and the public. Number 3, and perhaps most important, as stated 2 weeks ago, it was surprising that the item for the CPO-CCI modernization options was on the agenda, but without a public hearing. Glad to see that a public hearing has been scheduled for January 6th. But to benefit those who work during the daytime, please, scheduling at least a second public hearing in the evening is requested. I'll be taking these comments for discussion at the CCI meeting tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Clerk Moss, anyone else?
Is there any other member via Zoom that wishes to provide public comment? I'll give you just one more moment for a last call. I'm not seeing any additional hands. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, we'll move to board announcements. This Thursday, December 18th, we will have a work session for the purposes of multiple executive sessions. Please see that agenda. Executive sessions are not open to general public members, and certain ones are not open at all, I believe. But those provisions will be read in each of those items. Tuesday, December 23rd, we're not meeting, so please don't. Come join us. There is the possibility that we might have a board meeting on Tuesday, December 30th. If we have it, it would be at 10. It would be an additional meeting. Then we're into the new year. Tuesday, January 6th, we'll start with a work session at 9, pause that, reconvene as the Housing Authority Board of Directors, and immediately follow that have our board meeting, and then reconvene in work session later in the day. Thursday, January 8th, we'll have a roundtable as the Board of Commissioners of Washington County and as the Board of Directors of Clean Water Services. That starts at 9. The following Tuesday is entirely a work session day on January 13th. And then after holiday Monday, January 19th, Martin Luther King Day, we will have a business set of meetings on Tuesday, January 20th, starting with a work session at 9, pausing that, going to a board meeting at 10, and then reconvening the work session after that. And then on Tuesday, January 27th, we'll have our work session in the afternoon, no later than 2 p.m., and a board meeting in the evening starting at 6:30 p.m. What are the are there any other board announcements for today? No. Okay, so now I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn today's meeting. Do we have such a motion?
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. We're hereby adjourned. Thank you.